From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good morning. You know, anytime I have the opportunity to kick off one of these events, I always feel a little bit like I should apologize for interrupting the party. So apologies for interrupting the party, but welcome. Welcome to the Library of Congress. I'm Leanne Potter. I direct educational outreach here, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our symposium on diversity in children's literature, sponsored by the library, and of course, we need diverse books. This morning, so you want to clap or something, feel free. As you know, our program really does have a title. We're calling it Seen and Heard, The Power of Books. This program is being live streamed, so I want to give a shout out to all of those in the audience that are at a distance, especially those in time zones other than ours. You know, it's 9 o'clock here. Those folks in Chicago are watching. Those folks in Albuquerque are watching. Folks in Sacramento are out there, so we appreciate them getting up for this event. And finally, I want to thank my colleagues who are making that happen. Live streams and lights and big screens don't happen by themselves, so thanks to my colleagues for making things happen. All right, so here on Capitol Hill, 3 buildings are part of the Library of Congress, and they are named for 3 of our founding fathers. The building that we're in this morning is the James Madison Building. And for those of you who came in downstairs on our first floor, if you had looked over to your left, you would have seen a statue of James Madison, and if you'd walked into the room, you could have read some of his quotes on the walls. They're engraved down there. And there's one that sort of speaks to the Library of Congress and to cultural institutions like the library. And frankly, I think it sort of speaks to today's program. So I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit for you. It reads, "Learned institutions ought to be favorite objects with every free people. They throw light over the public mind." I love that. They throw light over the public mind. Even as Kathy and Ellen and I were first discussing this program last summer at the ALA conference, I had a hunch that this would be a light-throwing event. So now, I'm about to introduce this morning's panel moderator, but for this transition to make any sense, you all need to know that when I describe the library to people who do not know much about it, I often talk about it being a place that sparks ideas. The primary sources in the collections, my colleagues, the architecture of the Thomas Jefferson Building, they all inspire creativity and they help us learn and imagine possibilities. Okay, so a minute ago we were talking about throwing light, and I've just mentioned sparks. So when Kathy asked me if I would introduce our moderator, naturally I did a little research about her. And immediately I thought, wow, serendipity. This author is perfect. Her website has a fabulous URL. This morning's moderator is Linda Sue Park, L.S. Park. And if you go to her website, you'll find that the URL, L Spark. Huh? Magic. Linda was born in Urbana, Illinois. She grew up outside of Chicago and earned her bachelor's degree at Stanford University. She is a Newbery medalist and the author of numerous novels, picture books, and poetry collections for children. Her work often uses historical settings and innovative forms to expand young readers' sense of possibility. Her poetry collection, Tap Dancing on the Roof, utilizes a Korean syllabic verse form to bring surprise and humor to everyday moments and objects. Her novels for teenage readers include A Single Shard, When My Name Was Kyoko, and A Long Walk to Water, based on a true story. Her picture books include The Firekeeper's Son, illustrated by Julie Downing, and Bee Bim Bop, illustrated by Ho Back Lee. She lives with her family in Rochester, New York, and I have a feeling she is just who we need to start throwing some light on our program this morning. Please join me in welcoming Linda Sue Park.
Good morning. I am already having so much fun. I'd like to thank the Library of Congress and We Need Diverse Books, of course, and especially Ellen O. and Caroline Richmond and Kathy Weinberg, the Walter Awards judging panel, and all of you for being here, including those of you online. I serve on the advisory board of We Need Diverse Books, and I'm just so thrilled that they asked me to be the moderator of today's symposium. So we have the power of books, and I'm guessing that if you are in this room, you have a story or two about the power of books. A couple of quick ones of mine. My daughter is named after a character in one of Charlotte Zolotow's books. Many years ago, I moved to Brooklyn because of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. But perhaps most important, I survived a childhood of being different, in part because of the strength books gave me. This morning, I am delighted to introduce the 3 winners of the Walter Honor Awards, whose work turns the power of books into a juggernaut. Margarita Engel is the National Young People's Poet Laureate and the first Latina to receive that honor. She is the Cuban-American recipient of many awards for her verse novels, including a Newbery Honor for The Surrender Tree, a Penn Literary Award for The Lightning Dreamer, a Pura Belpré, and a previous Walter Honor for Enchanted Air. And I just decided that was enough. I couldn't keep listing the rest of them. Most recently, she was named by the United States Board of Books for Young People as the U.S. nominee for the 2018 Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award. And she is the author of Forest World, the 2018 Walter Honor title for younger readers. Margarita Engel. Mitali Perkins' novels for young readers include Rickshaw Girl, a New York Public Library Top 100 book, and Bamboo People, an ALA Top 10 YA novel. Mitali was born in Kolkata, India, and has lived in Bangladesh, India, England, Thailand, Mexico, Cameroon, and Ghana. She currently resides in San Francisco, where she is a lecturer at St. Mary's College of California. She is the author of You Bring the Distant Near, a 2018 Walter Honor book for older readers. Mitali, where's Mitali? There she is. Francisco X. Stork is the author of Marcelo in the Real World, winner of the Schneider Family Book Award for Teens, and Once Upon a World, and the Once Upon a World Award. Also the author of The Last Summer of the Death Warriors on the YALSA Best Fiction for Teens list, and winner of the Amelia Elizabeth Walden Award. He lives outside Boston, and he is the author of Disappeared, a 2018 Walter Honor book for older readers. Okay. We're going to start with the panelists as readers. So my first question is, I'd like to ask them to think back to their childhoods, and where did your books come from? Were you public and school library attendees? Was it school? Was it your parents? How did you have access to books when you were young? So Margarita, go ahead.
For me, it was the public library, the Arroyo Seco branch in Northeast Los Angeles, and I would go every Saturday and get a stack. But I have to say that I read more adult books than children's books. That's because I wanted international books. I wanted books about other countries. And at that time, there weren't books about other countries for children. So I would go in the adult travel section, which was illegal. The librarians would chase me away. They thought I was supposed to stay in the children's section, but I would get anything about geography and travel and other countries that I could find.
Wonderful. Mitali?
Yes, definitely the public library in Flushing, Queens. We immigrated there. Yes, Flushing. Yeah. So we immigrated there when I was 7, and I come from a family that is immigrant and refugee. My parents lost everything in the war, left Bangladesh, arrived in Kolkata, and then when we came to the States, like a lot of immigrant families, we had very little, so no books in the home. But my sister one day, I have 2 sisters, Sonali, Rupali, and Mitali. We all speak Bengali. So Sonali took me by the hand and said, I have a surprise for you, because she knew I was a reader already. Took me down, we walked 10 blocks to the Flushing branch. And when I walked in, she said, you can take 7 books home. And I was just, is this Ali Baba's cave? What has happened? So that was where I started reading.
I grew up in Mexico with, my mother was a single mother, so we lived in my grandfather's house. And there was just one bookcase in his bedroom. It was like one of those old kind of glass things, and I knew where the key was hidden. So, and he had this set of a volume, I think it was like 20 volumes, called the Tesoro de la Juventud, which is like Treasures for Youth. And it was like a compilation of fiction, nonfiction, stories, science. You could learn a language if you read those things carefully. So that's how I went through those books. And I don't think I saw my library until I was until we moved to Texas when I was 9 years old.
I think about that. I think about all the places in the world, and even in our own country, where young people don't have access to a library. How do they live? I mean, so that's really interesting. Okay. Could you talk about the first time, and it may not have been in your childhood, but the first time that you felt seen in a book or heard in a book? Right. So when we start at the other end this time, yeah.
I grew up. I grew up with this identity of being Mexican for a long time. I didn't become an American citizen until I was 26. So it was really the authors from Latin America that I just I grew up with, and it was only when I was in college that I realized that now I had lived 15 years in the United States, and I had gone through learning a new language and getting paddled for speaking Spanish in the playground, and getting rejected by the beautiful Becky because I was Mexican. That there were certain things that were a little bit different than Mexicans, and I began to acquire that identity. And I think it was like Rudolfo Anaya in his Bless Me Ultima, where I kind of saw, this possibility of this. Yeah, this kind of looks a little bit more like me.
Mitali?
I wanted books because I didn't like being seen. I moved to California when I was in 7th grade, and I was the only kid of color in the whole school. And I was the only kid not born in the USA in the whole school. So books for me were a way to see and hear other lives. So at school, I was doing that code switching dance. At school, I was using my curling iron to try to transform myself into Farrah Fawcett every morning so that I could miraculously look like everyone else, which I never did. So I think for me, it was that marvelous ability that books give us to see and hear other lives and imagine other lives, which I feel is a huge advantage that we get when we have to cross borders to read. And so I was learning to become fluent in imagining other lives, and I think that's how books served me well.
I was the only Cuban American growing up in a Mexican American neighborhood, and as much as I loved the poetry of Mexico, especially Octavio Paz, my mother introduced me to Jose Marti, and I love all the poets of Latin America and Spain, but especially the generation of 27 from Spain who were, resisting the oppression. And so poetry was very influential, but I have to say, as far as being seen in a book, I was 50-something when I read Alma Florada's memoir, Under the Royal Palms, and that would be the first time I read something written specifically about Cuba.
Right. So we're here to make sure no one else ever, no child ever has to wait that long again, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, when I was growing up, I have a very clear memory of the first Asians I ever saw in a book, which was that Five Chinese Brothers book. Yeah, okay, right. Let's move on. All right. Okay. Do you have either a book or books or an author or authors who are your greatest influence or your greatest inspiration? And why is that? Is it because of their craft, subject matter, theme? I mean, do you have, you know, authors that you just sort of hold up as your light? So, Natalia, we'll start with you this time.
I just finished my annual reread of Little Women again. And I think I loved Jo so much, Jo March, because she was living in 19th century Concord, Massachusetts, and I was living in a traditional middle-class Bengali home. But in terms of the pressure she faced not to use writing as a way to make money, if you reread that book, it's a strong theme in there about how she chose her vocation as a writer, despite all the pressures. And any of you from South Asian backgrounds know that we basically had 3 options: engineer, doctor, and engineer. That was those were our 3 options vocationally. So yeah, so she pushed those boundaries, and she loved her sisters, and she loved her writing. For her, her writing was something that she was never going to give up on, and that's how I felt about my writing, despite all of that pressure. A refined Bengali woman in that time did not write for money. We wrote for beauty. And so I think when Jo said, no, I'm going to make money on this, and I'm going to be independent, I loved her, and I still love her for that.
Nice, nice. So Francisco?
I guess, you know, one of my favorite authors is Flannery O'Connor, the Southern author, and I think it's more her life than, you know, she only wrote 2 novels and 2 volumes of short stories, but she was a person of faith, and her works are infused with that faith, but you'd never know it, you know, if you read her works. In fact, in many cases, you think like the opposite, you know, just because they're so undidactic and so powerful. And so you read her books and then you put it down and like, you know, what the hell just happened? and you begin to, and a little while later, you begin to like notice things that you didn't notice before. And I think that the ability to see things differently is that power that she gave me and that I would hope to emulate in my writing.
And that's why I'm a Francisco Stork fan, exactly as you described Flannery O'Connor, is how I would describe your work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Margarita?
You know, I'm going to say Marilyn Nelson's Carver influenced me because it was the first time and again, 50-something when I read it, but it was the first time I read a verse biography about someone who'd been neglected by history, and that's something I've really strived to do, is to write about people who've been forgotten and left out of the history books. And Carver has not been left out as much as some of the people that I've felt inspired to write about, but it was just such a beautiful thing that she did, doing a biography in verse instead of in the kind of formal nonfiction with footnotes that a child might not feel invited and welcomed to open the pages and go, this is written for me.
Have you ever told Marilyn that?
No, I haven't. Maybe she'll see this.
If you don't know this book, I have a special affection for this book because it was an honor book the year that A Single Shard won the Newbery. And it's a heroic crown of sonnets, and it's an incredibly complex form and difficult to write, and it ends with an acrostic. I mean, it will blow your mind. So, yeah.
And it comes across very simple and easy to understand for a child reading.
Yeah, it's an amazing book. Okay, now we're going to move on to our panelists as writers. And it was very interesting to receive these books and to go through them and to read them in preparation for this symposium. And immediately what I noticed first, the writer part of me, is that all 3 of them chose to use more than one viewpoint. Okay, so we have alternating chapters or sections in all 3 books. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to have in common. And so I'd like you to tell us about your multiple characters and why you chose them to be the ones to be seen and heard in your book. So we'll go with Margarita this time.
Well, Forest World is an eco-adventure about biodiversity and wilderness preservation in Cuba, but it's also a family reunification story set in 2015 when President Obama had initiated the peacemaking process between the US and Cuba, and I felt so excited. And the only way I felt like I could show this peacemaking process was by 2 children, siblings, who'd never met each other before, and that is very common, where one grows up in Miami and one in Cuba. And so even though I've heard people say they don't like readings, I'm going to take just a minute to read one very short poem in the sister's voice. She's grown up in a rural area in Cuba. And the reason I did multiple voices was to show the difference between the US and Cuba. Now, the American brother who grew up in Miami, of course, lives on his phone, and everything's about Wi-Fi and video games. And the girl who's grown up in Cuba, of course, doesn't have access to Wi-Fi. In rural Cuba, the fuel shortage is so severe that most people depend on horse-drawn vehicles or hitchhiking. And nightfall, the clip-clop of horse hooves, rhythmic flashes from dancing fireflies, around each curve the rising moon, Abuelo's long folk tales, his stories of glow-in-the-dark dogs and magical horses. My brother's fingers twitch as if he's longing to send phone messages back to his real home. What was Mama thinking, forcing un americano to spend time with los cubanos, sharing our quiet isolation?
Thank you. Beautiful. Who says people don't like readings? What's the matter? I love them. I love hearing the author read, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. Mitali.
Yes. So You Bring the Distant Near is a story of one Bengali family who moves to Flushing, Queens from Kolkata, India. Gosh, I wonder where I got that idea from. It's 3 generations, and so I have 5 voices, but I wanted to show how immigration affects all 3 of those generations differently. So the heroic generation really is the first one that come here seeking really for the next generation. They're the ones that bear the sacrifice, the loss, and the cost. So that's why in the book, the narrative arc really does belong mostly to that first generation, even though she's in the 3rd person voice. And then there are there's 2 girls that are the 2nd generation, which was mine, the code switchers. They're learning they know about village Bengali life, and they know about American life, and they're learning both. And they're gaining more agency in this culture than their parents have at a very early age. So that was important to me because that's really my generation. And then there's the 3rd generation, my sons, and the question being, how Bengali really are they? And how do we hold on to that? And how important is that in that 3rd generation? So people they'll identify as Indian, my sons, but there are 22 major languages in India and cultures, all of them distinct. So for an Indian to say I'm Indian, it sounds like it doesn't make any sense. So for them, their Bengali identity really is, it's getting lost. So there's a loss on both of those generations, and it's that middle generation that straddles that. So I wanted to see all of those 3 generations and how immigration affects that.
So Disappeared has 2 main characters. Sarah is a young journalist in Juarez, Mexico, and she's investigating the disappearance of so many women during a certain period of time. And her brother Emiliano is kind of a real go-getter. He's a soccer star or football, I should say, and has this little business of a craft business, and they were really like the reason I had 2 voices is because they were kind of like 2 journeys. One of them is sort of like the journey of kind of a physical journey of Sarah and trying to stay alive as she begins to uncover some of the causes for the disappearing girl, and her life is threatened. And then Emiliano is kind of like more like a moral journey, and sort of like the temptations that happen when you're poor, to try to make money through drugs. And so there was kind of like both a physical journey and kind of a moral journey. And I think I needed two voices. And sometimes I think that they're like the two characters are just part of myself. Emiliano's who I am, and Sarah's who I'd like to be.
Nice. Great. All right. I'm hoping for honesty with this next one. When I ask you to describe a typical writing day, so my honesty would be email, eBay, Tetris, open the document, stare at the document, Tetris. Okay, right. So what is a typical writing session for you? And Mitali, we'll start with you this time.
I'm motivated by shame. I come from a shame-based culture. So recently, I have a strong suspicion that my editor and agent have discovered that about me. Grace is here, my editor. And I think they just realized that without a deadline, I have the same schedule as you. So I work best under a deadline, because then if I don't make it, there's the horror of being ashamed, right? So, and I work in coffee shops because I like that buzz. Oh. So there's an app that you can download now that it's called Coffee Shop Buzz, that you can actually have that on your phone. So that is,
you're kidding! Oh my God!
I'm one of those annoying people in the Bay Area. I shift coffee shops so I don't get that look, like get an office, that look. But I shift coffee shops, and I'm the person that takes up the space near the plug. That's me.
Francisco.
I tell myself, I shouldn't say this because Arthur Levine is in the audience and he's gonna, my editor, but he would I sit in front of a computer and I tell myself I'm gonna do this for 2 hours and see what happens. So I don't do words and quotas and so forth. I'm gonna show up, and sometimes it's a few sentences, and sometimes I make it to a page and a half. Yeah. And I keep going, and so I work in the mornings, and then afternoons are for naps and to-do lists for my wife.
Okay, nice.
Wait, who was the writer that said I spent all morning putting a comma in and all afternoon taking the comma
it out again?
Yeah, I can't remember the writer who said that.
Just take everything Mitali said and reverse it. I need peace, quiet, solitude. I write with a pen by hand, preferably outdoors. And daydreaming is the essence of my process.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Because I'm sort of all over the map, I write my novels on the computer, but I do poetry and picture books.
That's how I write poetry with the right hand, too.
Yeah, sort of. Okay. Now the third section, which is the panelists as authors, which is different from being writers, right? Okay. I'd like you all to share a favorite story about one of your young readers that illustrates our theme of the power of books. I'm going to start on this one. My favorite letter that I have ever gotten from a young reader. Dear Miss Park, I was absent the day we picked our author to write to, and you were the only one left. So my question for you is, do you know Gary Paulson? But I was delighted that he had a favorite author, right? So it doesn't have to be me, but they have to have a favorite author. Okay, Margarita, one of your young readers.
I have received letters asking me to pass messages along to other authors also. but for me, the most powerful moments have been when I read a poem that is very personal. So especially when I read from my memoir, Enchanted Ear, very often a student will stand up out of the crowd and read their own poem to me in front of their classmates. This has happened to me on Skype. It's happened in person. The most powerful moments have been when it was a student who the teacher said, later told me privately, I didn't know that boy could read. And he was writing his own poetry. And then also a young girl who came up to me and recited a poem about being a homesick refugee, and she was from Syria and had just recently come to the US. And so these kids that we are speaking to and reading to, they're writing. Yeah. And we don't know that unless we open up to them and read our own work to them and share it very personally.
Yeah, she felt so seen, that girl. Right, so.
Well, I just Skyped with a intergenerational book club in upstate New York. And so the librarian had arranged a visit. The senior center had read my book, and the teenagers had read my book. So they were discussing it together, and they were going to have an Indian dance thing and a whole day. And this is the first time this has happened because I gave my best Skype, I thought. And then they started talking, and they forgot I was there. I was like this huge head on the wall just like watching, because one of them started sharing, one of the Indian women there started sharing the story of her arranged marriage and how she had met her husband. I had talked about my parents who had met each other on their wedding day. She started talking, and all the teens were just focused on her story. Nice. So that was exciting to see that connection. And I think the other part I love, even in this digital age, and I'm a huge social media geek, is when you go to schools. And do you guys mind a spoiler about the book? You okay? Well, one of the characters dies in the book, and every father in every book I write is based on my dad. And so we had just lost my dad right before the book launched. And so I had to go on tour and visit all these schools. And I thought, oh gosh, how am I going to make it through? You're trying to be professional. And so I went to this school in Kalamazoo, Michigan, about 140 eighth graders. The media, all the electricity was out. So everybody was shivering in coats. And it was a Title I school, lots of school lunch kids. Lots of immigrants and refugees. And I hadn't realized the English teacher had read the book I didn't know that. She had read the book. So I shared my story, and then a 14-year-old boy's hand goes up, and I was really trying to hide my grief, and I thought I'd done a great job, and his hand goes up and he says, I have a question. And his voice, has that cracky 14-year-old voice, I have a question. And I said, yeah, and he said, why? I love that dad. Why did that dad have to die? And I thought, oh gosh. So that was hard, I'm thinking, oh man, thanks for getting me choked up already, Murray.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, so we're a very crying culture, so feel free to join in as I talk about this. I started crying in front of all those 14-year-olds. I mean, and the best part of it, I think the connection that I want to share with you is that every single face in that room had so much compassion. They all loved my dad with me, so.
Very nice.
Why'd you do this to me?
This is the gift, my immigrant gift to Americans. It's like, everybody cry.
Make them cry.
Make them cry.
Make them cry. So, I think probably I wrote this book about a young girl who's recovering from depression, a day after a suicide attempt. And I really wanted to make sure that book was, and I tried very hard, through various drafts to make sure that I got it right. And that if it ended up in the hands of somebody who was like thinking about what to do with life, that it would point them in the right direction. So the emails that I get sometimes from kids that thank me for the book, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. This question has a choice for you. Tell us about the next book that's coming out for you, or what you're working on now. So, Francisco.
So this is the first time I'm trying to do a follow-up to the previous book. In Disappear, the kids kind of get to the.
Oh, I'm so excited.
They get to the border, and then so the next book is their lives, their undocumented lives in the United States.
Oh, wow! Okay. So. Can't wait. How far along are you?
My editor is over there, so I can't. It's due this summer, and I just asked him to define summer for me.
Summer in the southern hemisphere. Okay. Margarita?
My next first novel is Jazz Owls, a novel of the Zoot Suit riots, and it's about they're misnamed. They should be called the Sailor Riots. It's about the sailors attacking Mexican-American youth. Their rage triggered by the sight of interracial dancing during World War II in Los Angeles, in my home neighborhood. And it comes out, did I say in May?
No, May. This May.
Yeah, it comes out in May. Okay. And then next year, Soaring Earth, which is a sequel to my childhood memoir, Enchanted Air. It's about my high school and college years of the protests of the 60s. And it's really embarrassing, and I will go into hiding when it comes out.
I can't wait for that one. Okay.
I have my first picture book coming out next year. So FSG Macmillan it's called Gifts for Abuela, illustrated by Sara Palacios. So I'm excited about that. It's about it's a California story because it's about our wall on the border, and how it's about a little girl who wants to get a gift to her abuelita across that wall on the Dia de las Posadas. So that is my next book. And then I am working on Boy Wonder and Cat Girl, which is multiple narrators. I know it's kind of I'm trying to get into the Bollywood superhero vibe of this novel. It's about two teens from Boston who go to Kolkata and are just discovering a lot about their own stories as they confront some of the trafficking that happens in the city of my birth. So.
Wow. Well, I'll get in on this just for a minute. Next spring, I have a picture book coming out. There are dragons in Western mythology and dragons in Eastern mythology, and they have a lot in common, but they're also different. So your Western dragon has wings and breathes fire and lives in caves and hoards treasure, but Eastern dragons don't do any of those things. So this is a little girl dragon named Gandra, whose father is from the East and whose mother is from the West.
Perfect.
She breathes fire from one nostril and mist from the other. So it's my little mixed race dragon book.
I want to give a quick shout out to Linda Sue's parents who are here too. So I would love to say hello to them.
My parents are here. My father got some love a few months ago on Twitter. He was visiting and asked me for a good book to read, so I gave him Angie Thomas's The Hate You Give. And he was keeping a little list for me of stuff and phrases he didn't understand. So the first question is, what is this hose? Okay, so that was a fun conversation. All right. We're going to move now to a lightning round. Now, the questions thus far, I did give the panelists so they could, think about it a little bit. These they have not seen.
Yikes.
Okay? So it's just going to be a lightning round. We'll just keep going. They start easy, okay, and they're going to get a little harder.
Okay.
Right, all right? iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
I went to Stanford, Apple Girl from 1986. Yeah.
iPhone.
Okay. Twitter or Facebook?
Both.
Both?
Right now.
Yeah, Twitter, I think, preferably. Yeah.
Facebook.
Okay. Also acceptable is pass or I don't know. Okay? R2-D2 or BB-8?
Oh, how can you choose? That's a terrible question. I love them both.
I like living organisms.
They are alive! Aren't they? Okay.
I want R2 here and BB-8 here.
So R2-D2, I think.
Okay, classicist. Okay, T'Challa or Killmonger?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good.
Pass.
Good answer. Legit answer.
Pass. I don't.
Pass.
What is this question?
Yeah. So
We're poorly read. I
think you all need to go see Black Panther.
Yeah.
No,
Right. Oh man.
So, yeah. Killmonger.
Terrible.
Okay.
I feel embarrassed.
All right. Your Hogwarts house.
I read Harry Potter, but I don't remember him. That was a long time ago.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, Parvati and Padma, right? So a little bit of Gryffindor, a little bit of Ravenclaw. A little bit of both. Yeah.
Right.
Is Smithereen a term?
Slytherin?
Oh, Slytherin.
Slytherin.
The three of us are going to a matinee of Black Panther after. You want to join us?
Oh, jeez. That was a joke, Arthur. It was a joke. I read every single word.
I need a pop culture tutor, please.
Yes, right.
Arthur, what do you think I am? You are a Ravenclaw. I am a Ravenclaw.
Yeah,
you are right.
Sure.
I am a Ravenclaw. Okay. Desert Island, album, or recording artist? Start with that.
I like Desert Island, whatever that is.
Yeah.
These are complicated questions.
Yes,
Wait,
it is.
Desert Island?
So you, in other words, what one album or recording artist would you?
Oh, that's such
All right. Do you want to answer again?
I'm sorry.
You got to help me out, Jason.
Question was definitely unclear. That's my fault. Okay.
The greatest love song of all time, Let's Stay Together by the Reverend Al Green. Man,
Okay, all right.
That's a good song.
Nice. Okay. Anybody else got one?
A recording artist?
Yeah. A song, recording artist, album.
Benny Moré.
Okay.
Let It Be.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Okay. All right. Last request meal.
That's so easy. I'll go first. My mom's cauliflower and potato curry. For
Okay,
sure.
yeah,
I wish I had
Mom.
some to share here.
Yeah. Do you have one, Margarita?
Espresso ice cream, that's easy.
Okay. All right.
I have a mole with rice and beans and hot chocolate. No, it's like,
Wow. Golly.
Linda Sue, you answer that.
Yeah, Shake Shack. Okay. Maybe you kind of already answered this, but I'll ask it again. An author or book that you wish everyone in the room would read.
I'll start with The Book Thief is one of my favorite books. I
Oh,
think.
The Book Thief. Okay, nice.
Gosh,
It's
hard. I'm judging the National Book Awards this
Yes.
year, so I have to be completely silent.
Yeah.
I can't say anything, right, Meg? Can't say anything. I did love both of their books, though. I have to put a plug in. If you guys, these are both excellent books, so I would say my friends.
Hold on a second.
I've already been tired. Like he's not giving it. Good day. He's treating to Black Panther later on.
I have a special love for Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson because I think it's one of the most important books of the century, but also she was writing it at the same time that I was writing Enchanted Air, but I didn't know, and I'm sure she didn't know, that we were doing verse memoirs at the same time. So I feel like that says that at this point in time, people from marginalized communities are writing in poetry, because I can't speak for her, but I believe that the harshness of history requires beautiful language and a softening the blow that comes with poetry. I think that maybe we're facing things that couldn't be faced in prose.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay. I guess if I were answering, I would just say, in honor of this event, anything by Walter Dean Myers.
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is the last lightning round question. I'll put you out of your misery. It's a good one. What's on your headstone?
It's easy because it's my Twitter bio and my Facebook bio, and it's just going to say, beloved like you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Peace.
Peace.
He tried to be human.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's your
great.
Twitter bio.
Yes,
Yeah.
great words to finish on. Okay.
But did he succeed?
I need your help for that.
Okay, we're almost finished and ready to hand on to the next exciting part of our morning, but I'll just ask you to finish by keeping in mind our theme of the power of books. You have an audience here of readers and especially teachers and librarians who work with young people. What one thing would you like to tell them to take home to the young people about your work or your particular book? Okay, Margarita?
Just that verse novels are interactive, The white space on the page is not empty. It contains my emotions and the reader's emotions, and you can invite students to write their own poems in response. They can jump in at any point on any page and write their own poems. They can write the missing voices, because I certainly can't do it all. There's the old adage that a poem is never finished, it's just abandoned. The same is true of a poetry book. It's not finished. There's room for them to come in and write.
Do you want to go?
No, I'll go. You should be last.
Oh,
I think it's not about my books, but I think that the action item that I would say is to try to mentor a young person in your life. Listen to their works, help them along as best you can. And you don't have to be a writing coach, but it just one young person that you find.
Yes, our Jackie Woodson says she's trying to change the world one reader at a time.
yay, that's great. I'd say play around with the windows and the mirrors. I found unexpected mirrors in books, and so will the kids that you serve. So I would say let kids roam freely, but don't limit them to just the ethnic or racial mirror, because they're going to find that. And I think play around with it in your collections and your displays. So I heard for many years in my career, we just don't have an Indian population in our community, Mitali, so that's why. And so I don't hear that anymore, and I want to keep that going forward, because our books are for all readers, and really that's the. I am so thankful to We Need Diverse Books. I mean, we've been writing for years and years and years, and just to see the traction you guys have given our work, because I don't hear that anymore. And so I'd say let your young readers roam freely, find the windows and mirrors, and just offer them a feast of books.
There you go. Nice
And
job.
thank you, Natalia. You've also given me the perfect ending, because most of us use that windows and mirrors metaphor, which has been so incredibly useful, right? And here with us today, we have the originator of that phrase, Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. If you would please stand up, Dr. Bishop. She was doing this work before most of us knew it was work. So we're so honored that she's here with us today. So I guess a few minutes break now before our actual Walter Awards ceremony starts. And thank you all. So I had a great time. I hope you did too.
When Linda Sue said she wasn't going to do your basic cookie cutter diversity panel, I thought, okay, we're in for a good ride. And you know what? It was a wonderful ride. Thank you, Linda Sue. Thank you, Margarita, Natalie, and Francisco. You have taken us on journey. You made us laugh. You made us cry. And I'm glad none of you became the engineer, Dr. Engineer that you might have been. I just wanted to say, speaking on behalf of We Need Diverse Books, it's been a pleasure to co-sponsor this symposium with the Library of Congress. And we especially appreciate the assistance and warm welcome of Leanne Potter, the Director of Education and Outreach for the Library of Congress. We're going to take a 15-minute break. Coffee, tea in the back, water, bathrooms down the hall. We've also set up book sales, thanks to the Library of Congress book sale office. And please, go ahead and purchase those. We will be, the authors will very nicely be signing during the reception that will follow. We want to make sure that they have time we're celebrating them during the reception, so we don't want to make them work the whole time. So no personalizing, and also no photos for the signing, and then we're going to try to do that efficiently and then let them enjoy and mingle with all of you. So see you back here in about 15 minutes, and thank you. And thank you. Let's give one more hand to these wonderful panelists. Hello and welcome. There's nothing like an unruly crowd of librarians, teachers, educators, and publicists. Networking is really great, and we're going to do it afterwards at the reception, so thank you very much for your patience. I'm Kathy Weinberg, and I'm the co-director of the We Need Diverse Books Walter Awards. We welcome you to the third Walter Dean Myers Award for Outstanding Children's Literature. It's fitting to start with an often heard quote from Walter Dean Myers, whose legacy we honor with this award. Reading is not optional. This award says that children finding and seeing themselves in books is also not optional. We Need Diverse Books was founded with the hashtag and 21 people a couple years ago, and now it has grown to a global presence. We know how global it is because one of our founders and the head of We Need Diverse Books, Ellen O, who we miss today, is in Hong Kong at the book festival. So I hope she's watching our live stream, so everyone say hi to Ellen. Okay. So as an organization, We Need Diverse Books have brought positive change to the publishing world and the books being published. When We Need Diverse Books started the Walter Award 3 years ago, we had, for our first year, under 40 books submitted for consideration. For the Walter 2017, we had 76 submissions for the Walter. And for Walter 2018, while we did add the category of younger reader, our submissions were over 180 books. So that's the beginning of progress. We have a lot of thank yous to hand out today. First, to the Library of Congress for their hospitality, especially Dr. Carla Hayden, Leanne Potter, Clay Penchek, Karen Jaffe, and Sasha Dowdy. We could not do this without the We Need Diverse Books staff and volunteers. A big thanks to Carolyn Richmond, where she's everywhere, she's the We Need Diverse Books program director. Judy Stryker, the CFO, and Christine Vallis, the financial manager. And we couldn't do this either without events planner Karen Brown. And we want the We Need Diverse Books volunteers to please stand up. So all We Need Diverse Books people that have volunteered, please stand up so we can thank you. We want to take a moment to honor the memory of the legacy of Walter Dean Myers and thank his family and friends for their continued support of the award. Of course, the award would not be possible without our most talented and slightly bleary-eyed judges over there who have read some wonderful books this year. Co-chair Terry Hong is not with us today, but Maria Salvador, co-chair, is over there. And judges Derek Ivey, Dora Mahar, Nayatara Mahatre, Ruth Dowry, and Deb Taylor. Would you please stand up so we can thank you? And while we're on a thank you roll, I want to say a big thanks to the publishers, many of whom are in our audience today. Thank you for listening to We Need Diverse Books and supporting the need for diversity in children's literature. One last thanks to our audience of readers, educators, and librarians. We could not spread the We Need Diverse Book word and put books by diverse authors with diverse characters in the hands of children without your help. Thank you. We have a wonderfully full program, and to start it out, I would like to introduce Mark Sweeney. He is the acting deputy director of the Library of Congress. While we miss Dr. Hayden, we're very appreciative of Mark's time and interest in the award ceremony. Mark is also the chief of Humanities and Social Sciences Division at the Library of Congress, plus serves as the director of preservation. Welcome, Mr. Sweeney.
Well, good morning, everyone here. The energy in the room is really infectious, so I'm pleased to add my voice to the chorus of voices welcoming you here to the Library of Congress this morning. As you know, we're here today with our colleagues from We Need Diverse Books to highlight diversity in children's literature. Just 4 years ago, We Need Diverse Books began as a simple hashtag on Twitter. Today, the organization has grown from a grassroots movement into a 501(c) nonprofit with a team that spans the globe. Writers and illustrators, editors and agents, book bloggers and book lovers. The We Need Diverse Books team seeks to create a world in which every child can see themselves in the pages of a book. The Library of Congress shares this goal. We are proud to have hosted this morning's Symposium on Diversity in Children's Literature, and also to be hosting this ceremony. Both events highlight and promote books that broaden our notions of diversity and engage us in meaningful conversations about them. To honor exemplary diverse books created by writers and illustrators from marginalized communities, We Need Diverse Books established the Walter Dean Myers Award for Outstanding Children's Literature, the Walters. Walter Dean Myers was a 5-time winner of the Coretta Scott King Award and 2-time Newbery Honors. He was named the 3rd National Ambassador for Young People's Literature by the Library of Congress, the Children's Book Council, and the Every Child a Reader in 2012. We are delighted that the emcee for this morning's ceremony is the current National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Jacqueline Woodson. And I'm delighted to introduce her. Jacqueline is a 4-time Newbery Honor medalist, a Coretta Scott King Book Award winner, a former Young Poets Laureate. Her platform, Reading Equals Hope and Change, What's Your Equation?, encourages young people to think about and beyond the moment that they are living in, the power they possess, and the impact reading can have on showing them ways in which they can create the hope and change that they want to see in our world. Please join me in welcoming Jacqueline Woodson to the podium. Thank you.
Morning. What an honor. Okay, I would be remiss to not do this for my panelist. Y'all will get it after this afternoon's viewing. Oh man, that was the best symposium ever. Ever. I didn't space out once. It really was the best. So thank you. Thank you. What an honor to be in the room. And what an honor to be back at the Library of Congress. There's so much love in the room. This is a place that, as a young person, I never came to, and I never thought it was for me. And Dr. Carla Hayden, the staff here, the energy is amazing now, and to look around this room and to see how diverse it is, to be in this moment of We Need Diverse Books is everything. It is a dream and beyond. So I just want to say to the young people in the room, hold fast to dreams, because this is what they become. And y'all are amazing, amazing. I am still high on the march, on the national walkout, and all the work that the young people are doing to change the world, and all the work my fellow writers are doing to keep us here. So what an absolute honor. I have a speech written because I don't get nervous unless they tell me that it's being televised. So suddenly the intimacy is gone, because I know y'all won't judge me, but the people out there, I see you. And plus, this ceremony is a little bit longer because we're giving, We Need Diverse Books is very excited to present our first Bookseller of the Year award. It is a true universally acknowledged, see, this is what happens. And for the, for the Newbery, for the Caldecott, and the award that's being given this year, it's right now called the Laura Ingalls Wilder, but there's work being done to change that name. You have to write a speech and submit it a couple of months beforehand so they could record it. And I guess so you're not supposed to mess up on it, like I'm messing up here now. But just the idea of having to write something long before you get in the room with the people who you're going to say it to, you don't know how the world's going to change. I mean, it changes so quickly. And what you write 2 months from the day you give the speech can be not so relevant anymore. But this is very relevant. I do digress. That was all to just kind of cover up my flubbing the writing here. It's a very New Yorker thing to kind of knock you off track for a minute. It is a truth universally acknowledged that every diverse book is in need of a bookseller to hand sell it. Of all the gatekeepers in the publishing industry, booksellers may be one of the most important, as people who both curate collections and get books into the hands of readers who will purchase them. They have the power to create book bestsellers, but more vitally, they have the power to represent, meaning that children can go to their stores and either search in vain for books that reflect their world or smile when they see themselves on the shelf. Today, We Need Diverse Books is proud to present its first Bookseller of the Year award, a prize that was created because our organization wanted to recognize the role that booksellers have as drivers of the publishing industry. No one can read or buy a book that they've never heard of. This is our thank you to the independent booksellers of our country for championing, and I might be mispronouncing that because that's not a word I wrote, and I usually write words that I pronounce a lot. So, but it means for being champions of the cause of diverse books and showing that they can, in fact, sell. We do buy books. The winner of the first annual We Need Diverse Bookseller of the Year award is Sarah Luce Look of Karis Books and More in Atlanta. And I love this bookstore. I don't have enough time to talk about how much I love Karis Books, one of the early bookstores that I visited, and the community that happens there. So I'm very proud to present this award. As the oldest feminist bookstore in the country, Karis Books is a local institution that is proud and open about its mission to reflect a wide spectrum of experiences, lives, and families. Their excellence in the support of diverse books is evident in the types of events that it programs, in the anti-racist, resistance, and LGBT book list, in its race-conscious parenting collective, in its community outreach to librarians and schools via diversity teach-ins, and of course, in its collection, which honors all types of diversity. We Need Diverse Books is honored to present Sarah and Karis Books and More with 2 awards, one for them to keep, and one that will remain at Karis Books until the next Bookseller of the Year is nominated. And then you gotta give it back, sorry. Thank you, Sarah and Karis Books. Congratulations. No speech. I think you have to stand here and let me take a picture with you. Sorry. We didn't practice that part, sorry. Thank you. You might want to check your luggage. I've been stopped for these. And now we move on to the Walter Awards, right? Am I? Okay. Thank you. So now we move on to the Walter Awards, and we start with my brother from another mother, Jason Reynolds, and who is here with his fabulous mother. Jason Reynolds is a New York Times best-selling author, a Newbery Honor a Newbery Award honoree. Okay, you know what? I'll just drop the honoree. Make it easy, right? Jason is a Newbery Award winner, a Prince Award honoree, a National Book Award honoree, a Kirkus Award winner, a 2-time Walter D. Myers Award winner, an NAACP Image Award winner, and the recipient of multiple Coretta Scott King honors. I think there was one year you got 2 at the same ceremony, right? Yeah. He's not messing around, y'all. If you're gonna have step it, don't step at all. Reynolds was the American Bookseller Association's 2017 spokesperson for Indies First. And, you know, he's brilliant and also so not hard to look at. and will serve as the national spokesperson for the 2018 celebration of School Library Month in April 2018, sponsored by the American Association of School Librarians. We see you, ASL. Jason's many works of fiction include When I Was the Greatest, Boy in the Black Suit, All American Boys, co-written with Brendan Kiley, As Brave as You, For Everyone. I don't know that one. Oh, okay. Thank you. It's not out yet. And the track series, Ghost, Patina, and then coming up, Sonny and Lou, and Long Way Down, which received both a Newbery honor and a Prince honor. He lives in Washington, D.C. And just an aside about Jason, so I have a 10-year-old son who reads differently, and he listens to audiobooks non-stop. And every time I ask him what's in his ear, Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds. But you listened to that already. I'm listening to it again, Jason Reynolds. So, but he loves this writer, as do so many of us. Congrats, Jason.
Hi, everybody. It's a whole lot of y'all in here this year. So I have a few minutes to say a few words. First, let me just say thank you to the Library of Congress. Thank you to We Need Diverse Books. I am forever grateful for the work that you've done. Thank you, judging panel and committee. It is never lost on me how fortunate I am every time anything like this happens. I am truly grateful. Thank you to my mama, who you always... I always tell people it's important to make sure, everybody who knows me knows her, right? I think it's important to do that. At the end of the day, you know, all of us, our lives are sort of fleeting. And at the end of the day, when she's out of here or when I'm out of here, I think I want her legacy to be as solid and as perpetual as my own. It's important, right? So shout out to my mom. Thank you to everybody that's been up here, all the honorees, all the winners. It's just so cool to be around such important and interesting people doing such fantastic work. And of course, the great Jacqueline Woodson. She's the only person I know who is so decorated, has so many everything, right? She has all the awards, and yet somehow it seems to not take herself very seriously. I think that there's much to be learned from understanding what it is our role is and what we're really doing, and that the awards are amazing, but they don't necessarily change our character. They shouldn't, at least. Who we are is who we are. And I'm grateful for you for being a big sister to me in this interesting journey of the literary world. Also, my agent, Elaine, is here, and my editor, Caitlin DeLuey, both of whom are just as responsible as the work for the work that I do. Now, with all that being, because you got to do all that, right? So, because then somebody's going to be like, you ain't even thanked the committee. You ain't even thanked... Okay. All that's over. All right. Here's what I want to say really quickly. I've been doing some research and working on this new book. I can't talk about it, but I'm kicking around ideas, right? And this is sort of what happens in my brain is I have all this stuff happening up here and it's moving around and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. And I've been really working on this. We all know the adage, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, doesn't make a sound, right? We've all grown up hearing that. I'm not even sure if many of us have ever thought about what exactly is being said, but we hear that all the time. I've done some research on it because I'm interested in it, and I think it's a fascinating saying. And I've been digging around trying to figure out what that means for my life, what that means for my work, what exactly are they even talking about. Turns out that though it is a philosophical statement, it actually was a scientific statement. And scientists were saying basically that if a tree falls in the forest, what happens when it comes to sound is that the tree hits the ground, there's a vibration from that impact, and that vibration then somehow travels to, y'all ain't make the announcement? Y'all ain't, exactly. The tree falls, hits the ground, right? There's a vibration, that vibration travels to the eardrum, and then when it hits the eardrum makes the sound. But if the vibration does not hit the eardrum, technically, then the sound is not made. That's how sound works, right? So the scientists were saying, if a tree hits the ground and no one is there to hear it, technically, it does not make a sound. Of course, for me, that is, I mean, it makes sense, sort of, except for the fact that I think somehow in that argument, it sort of disqualifies the idea of the vibration being made in the first place, right? So if a tree is a piece of matter, a tree is a thing, it's a living thing, a breathing thing, a growing thing. Once that tree hits the ground, there's a vibration made. Whether someone is there to hear it or not is of less importance than the fact that a vibration is made. And to not acknowledge that vibration is to disqualify the life and the falling of said tree, right? Now, from a philosophical, from a philosophical standpoint, right, which is the other argument, which is the colloquial argument that most of us make when we say this, right? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. And we look at that as a philosophical statement, right? From a philosophical standpoint, I think that perhaps we're not necessarily asking the right questions, right? It's like that seems like such a limited and simplified sort of question to be asking about a tree that falls in the forest with no one around to hear it, because there are other questions, extenuating questions that we should be asking ourselves to better understand the context in which a tree is falling in a forest with no one around to hear it. For instance, is the wind blowing? For instance, was the tree struck by lightning? For instance, is there something eating at the base of the tree which makes it a little less strong? For instance, are there termites eating the tree from the inside out? All of this would help us try to better understand whether or not it matters that if a sound is made or not if a tree falls in a forest with no one there to hear it. Now, let's transpose tree for child, right? From a scientific standpoint, if a child falls and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? According to the scientists, the child does not, right? According to what I'm arguing, though, is if we say the child does not make a sound, if we say that the child's impact on that ground does not create a vibration, then we disqualify the life of said child, right? Now, from a philosophical standpoint, if a child falls, does it make a sound? Again, I think we need to ask more questions. Number one, was there wind blowing? Was there something there pushing the child? Was there something there, a force, an unseen force forcing the child down? Was there something there eating at the child's base, right? Something there that maybe we don't know eating at the child. Were there termites involved? Eating the child from the inside out? Was lightning striking anywhere in the vicinity? Was anything on fire? Was the ground weakened by anything, right? And lastly, why aren't anyone, like, where are the people? Right? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, does it make a sound? The question is, why is no one around? Where are the people? Where is everyone? Right? Because that's the question that we should be asking, and that is what Long Way Down is actually about, right? Everyone is saying, like, oh, it's about a kid and a gun. No. This is about acknowledging the fact that the kids that we judge every single day have all kinds of things going on around them, forces that cause these kinds of issues, and it's best for us to ask ourselves some true questions, to really mine our own psyches. This book is not about any child. This book is about you. You read the book. Whatever you think happens to this kid at the end of the book has more to say about you than that child, right? Do your work to make sure that our babies have a fair shot. That's all I ask for. Shout out to also, before I get off the stage, I'm done, but before I get off the stage, I also just want to say really quickly to Margarita Engel, my friend, it's important, and I want to make sure I acknowledge her, because at the end of the day, she could probably explain the power of novels in verse far better than I could. I think her job and her role in the position that she holds is very important. And I think she understands the power of poetry and the power of verse and its force in a way that I hope to mature to someday. And it's important that she know that as well. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very, very, very much. Have a good day.
I know you can't just drop mics that are attached to a podium. So, thank you, Jason. I think it's a good moment to just bring the ancestors into the room. I do this as often as I can. When you hear the powerful words spoken by our writers, I think it's important for us all to remember the people who came before us and how important they were to who we are now, to being able to stand here, and the people who've left this world but still walk with us. So if we could just take 2 minutes and just shout out a name of someone who you want to bring back into the room or who already is in the room with us, I think that would be fitting in this moment of remembering Walter Dean Myers. That's the name I'll say. Yes. Marianne Woodson.
Robin Smith. Patricia McKissick. Bill Teal.
Thank you. Welcome home. Carol Boston Weatherford. I just appreciate your power in the room. So I just have loved your work forever, and I'm so grateful to be in the room with you. Carol Boston Weatherford is a New York Times bestselling author and poet. Her numerous books for children include the Coretta Scott King Author Award Honor Book, Becoming Billie Holiday, illustrated by Floyd Cooper, and the Caldecott Honor Books, Moses, When Harriet Tubman Led Her People to Freedom, illustrated by Kadir Nelson, and Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hamer, Spirit of the Civil Rights Movement, illustrated by Equa Holmes, which is such an amazing book. And Carol Boston Weatherford lives in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and has been writing and changing the world for many, many years, and I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Jackie. Why'd you make me follow the philosopher? I asked, after we heard Jason speak, I asked Eric, I said, you want to go next? So I'm going to start with an epitaph. We've already invoked the ancestors. So I'm going to start with the poem that concludes Schomburg. Epitaph, 1938. If this proverb, a book is a garden carried in a pocket, is true, then Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, the historian and book collector, had a green thumb and a harvest of pride. There was no field of human endeavor that he did not till with his determined hand, that he did not sow with the seeds of curiosity, where he did not weed out truths, lies, and half-truths, or that he did not water with a growing sense of African awareness and heritage. If a book is a garden carried in a pocket, then Schomburg yielded a bumper crop, blanketed Mount Kilimanjaro with African violets. If I had African violets this morning, I would certainly give some to We Need Diverse Books, to the judges, to my editor, Hilary Van Dusen, my agent, Ruben Pfeffer, to my family and friends who are here with me today, to all of the librarians and educators who use my books and other diverse books in classrooms, to, last but not least, my frequent collaborator, Eric Velasquez, who pitched this project to me. Schomburg, in several ways, brings my book full circle, as does this awards ceremony. Just as Schomburg experienced a slight at the hands of his 5th grade teacher who told him that African descendants had no history worth noting, I was dissed by an 8th grade teacher. Fascinated with the Harlem Renaissance, I wrote a research paper on County Cullen after having read his poem, Incident. I was one of only 4 black students at my grade level at an exclusive Quaker school in Baltimore, and I was the only one of those 4 who had transferred from public school. When I got my paper back, the teacher had given me a B and had offered but one comment: "Did you write this?" Obviously, he had expected less of me. Ever since, I have strived to use my pen to affirm my heritage and culture. When I was an aspiring children's book writer, before I had anything published but adult poetry, I studied the work of Walter Dean Myers. Among the mentor texts that I turned to were Brown Angels, Angel to Angel, Harlem, and one more, River to Cross. When I was in graduate school, I worked on a photo essay project that evolved into a children's book many years later. It took 20 years to be exact. My picture research took me to the Schomburg Center, to Moreland Spingarn Research Center at Howard University, and to the Library of Congress Prints and Photographs Department in this very building. I was looking for images to accompany my poems. Instead, I found pictures that begged for words. Some were of historic figures, others were of everyday people whose names have been lost. I wrote poems to give them voices. I began right then and there collecting images and stories. I'm going to close with a poem from that book that first led me to the Schomburg Center. Remember the bridge. Remember the bridge that your ancestors crossed, the sweat that was spilled and the lives that were lost. Remember the slaves who raised corn and cotton. Keep singing their songs so they won't be forgotten. The Underground Railroad that passed through at night. The signs and conductors that guided slaves' flight. Remember the soldiers who fought though they knew they might not be free when the battle was through. Remember the old souls who handed down tales. The bold men and women who blazed their own trails from the south to the north, from farm to big city, with satchels of dreams and no use for pity. Remember the bootblacks who made old shoes shine, the industrious laborers who manned factory lines. Remember the housemaids who scrubbed dirty floors, the leaders who spoke out to open closed doors. Remember the hard way the ancestors came, snatched from the motherland, bound in iron chains. Remember the voyage, the capture, the chase, young warriors who vanished without even a trace. Remember the ocean, much too vast to span, long shadows on shorelines and footprints in sand. Forget not the glory of Africa's past, the temples and riches that to this day last. Bronze baskets and mudcloth, pyramids of stone, ebony statues and bracelets of bone. The journey continues. The bridge still holds strong. Hands reach across water. Hearts sing a new song. Thank you.
That posing for the picture thing is the most awkward part, right? Thank you so much for that, Carol. That poem was lovely. Oh, man. Eric Velasquez. One cool thing is the children's book writing community is small, so we all know each other. A lot of us know each other. A lot of us go way, way back. And when we get together, we have a lot of catching up to do. So it was so great to be reunited last night and to be able to gossip about all that stuff we didn't get a chance to talk about and to catch up. And I want to make a point about the importance of picture books. I feel like when I read Schomburg, I learned so much that I didn't know. And I think sometimes we think picture books are for young people. They really are for everyone. So, and they're a great way to teach about the narrative arc. They're a great way to teach poetry. So many of the forms are so poetic. So get these books into the hands of writers of all ages. They're groundbreaking and important and world-changing. Eric Velasquez is the illustrator of numerous books for children, including several previous collections with Carol Boston Weatherford. He won the John Steptoe New Talent Illustrator Award for his illustrations of The Piano Man, which if you haven't seen and read, you must. Written by Debbie Chocolate. Eric is also the author-illustrator of the Puro Belpre Illustrator Award-winning Grandma's Gift. Born in Harlem, so funny, I always, people born in Harlem are so the real thing to me. So I was always so jealous of Black people who were born in Harlem. He lives and works in Hartsdale, New York, which has the same first 3 letters as Harlem, so we'll get you a pass on that. But his work is mind-blowing, and he is mind-blowing, and I'm so glad to share the stage with him and present him with this award. I got it together this time.
Wow, there is a lot of you in here. Okay, well, I have my speech. Okay, so I wanted to start with, for those that didn't see the video that I recorded for the We Need Diverse Books organization, my wish is that in my lifetime, we'll replace this word diversity, especially in books, with the word normal. It's a simple concept, It's like, because diversity in my house didn't really exist. I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, but we went to the movies to see American films, to spoke English, watched Spanish-speaking television, listened to salsa music, but we also listened to the Temptations, and so it was like, wow, wait, you mean diversity is like everything? But that's my life. That's my wish for all of you, that lots of normal. Okay. So now to my thank yous. So I want to thank the We Need Diverse Books organization, as well as the Walter Award Judging Committee, which is named after my friend Walter D. Myers. Thank you to Ruben Pfeffer, my agent, for helping this project find a home at Candlewick Press. I would also like to thank our editor, Hilary Van Dusen, art directors Chris Paul and Race Joel Smith for their hard work and dedication to this project. And to the public relations team, including Phoebe Kosman, for their tireless efforts. To master author Carol Boston Weatherford, thank you for writing a glorious manuscript. You truly outdid yourself with this one, our 5th collaboration. I want to thank the love of my life, Elizabeth Rosario, not only for posing as Elizabeth and Phyllis Whitley, but also for the love and support, reassurance, and strength. You are my rock. Okay. I first became aware of our tutor, Alfonso Schomburg, in the 3rd grade. My teacher, Ms. Holmes, kept a poster of our tutor Schomburg on her classroom wall, along with posters of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Marcus Garvey. That Marcus Garvey poster with the really cool, you had the uniform with the apples, yeah. But what a gift. The day she said to me that our tutor Schomburg and I shared something in common, that we both had roots in Puerto Rico. And as she continued with a brief talk on our tutor Schomburg, for the first time in my life, I found a hero that looked like me and that I can identify with. I could not wait to get home and ask my grandma if she knew this great man responsible for the library on 135th Street in Harlem. Well, ¿sabes quién es Arturo Schomburg? I asked, thinking that I would just throw her off with the name. Seguro que sí, ese hombre era un genio. Of course, that man was a genius. Y era de Santurce, el mismo sitio que venimos nosotros, the same place we come from. However, aside from Schomburg's collection of books and artifacts, she didn't know much more about the man. 37 years later, while at the Schomburg Center attending a performance of The Last Poets with Elizabeth and her good friend Sheena, Sheena turns to me and says, "You know, there are no children's books on Arturo Schomburg. You know, you ought to think about doing that book." Suddenly, I realized that this was the handsome man in that poster that I would stare at day after day in the 3rd grade. That genius that my grandmother talked about. Wait. I contacted Carol immediately and asked her to write me a manuscript on Schomburg. That was 2006. We submitted the project to several publishing houses, and we were rejected everywhere. This is just a story about a man who collected books? He's so boring. Maybe jazz him up a little bit, you know? Well, it didn't happen then. In 2014, our now agent, Ruben Pfeffer, decided to give it another try. And after a lot of work, a new manuscript and new sketches, Schomburg, the man who built the library, found a home at Candlewick Press. What a journey. However, it was through Carol's brilliant words that I truly discovered Schomburg's genius and his gift to all of us. This project has changed my life in so many ways. Oh, well, I even ended up in the hospital, didn't I? I've even met Dean Schomburg, which is Arturo Schomburg's grandson, who is now a man in his 70s. I've met his daughter and her son Miles, so that's Schomburg's great-grandson. And so I conclude with, to Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, I say, gracias, maestro, luz y progreso. Ache. I'm walking off without my
Okay. Oh, okay. Awesome. Na to the publishers that said no. Man, I bet you'll look quite hard at the next book that comes across your... So now it is my great pleasure to present the honor awards. And I don't have any bios for them, so we're just going to roll with this for the authors. Oh, Caroline. What? Okay, no. I know y'all are tired of sitting, but I'm going to present them. Margarita, Mitali, and Francisco have done amazing things in literature. And I want to first present Margarita, who is our Young People's Poet Laureate. And she is doing an amazing job. And she's, as you know, the first Latino. What does it say, Latino? Isn't it Latina or Latinx?
Latino and Latinos.
But we're only talking about a woman.
In Spanish, the O includes a.
Okay. How about, can we say Latinx?
You can, but it gets complicated.
Okay.
Latinx or Latinx?
Latinx. So, okay, now you, Margarita is amazing, and I'm very happy to present her with this award. I'll speak for you. Thank you. And I just want to say again how fabulous you all were on the panel and how eye-opening it was. So for those of you who missed it, that revolution is going to be televised, right? So hopefully you'll get to watch it. Matali Perkins has written novels for young readers, including Rickshaw Girl, which is another book that I loved and continue to love, and Tiger Boy, which is a Junior Library Guild pick. So, and we know where she lives, and we got her bio when she was doing the panel. So I am honored, beyond honored, to present Matali with this award. And Francisco, who is just amazing. And Marcelo in the Real World is the winner of the Schneider Family Book Award for Teens. And it's interesting because I didn't know about it until my 16-year-old daughter came to me and said, "Ma, you need to read this book." And I was mad that she knew something I didn't. So lovely and world-changing. And I am so honored that you're here. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks all for being here, and we're going to conclude, but don't get up off your seats yet. But thank you authors for changing the world. Thank you committee for changing the world. Thank you We Need Diverse Books for being born. And thank you teachers, librarians, writers, readers for supporting the work we're doing.
Thank you. Jackie just did the unimaginable. She finished an award ceremony early. We are sending her over to the Capitol. She's going to get things straightened up. Be okay? Yeah? Things will be running better. But fortunately, we're ready to start. The reception will start. We'll have more time for mingling and getting, just being able to talk to the authors. They're going to go over to the book signing table after they go over with the judges and have a photo with the judges. So if you, Walter Honor or award winner, if you go over there and just have a picture with the judges, that would be nice. And we'll do that first. Then they will go over and they will be signing. We have strict orders. They're just going to be signing and no photos. And I'm sorry about that, but we want them to have time to enjoy themselves because they certainly earned it. So thank you all. You've been a wonderful audience. And thank you very much to the Library of Congress. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.